Hello there, welcome to Amiga Reviews with your host, the eager Amiga Eagle. At least, I think so. Today, I'm going to be looking at Terminator 2 Judgement Day, the game. Normally at this point, I would briefly wax lyrical about the game and sum up its merits in a single sentence. But that's a hard thing to do with T2, because it really doesn't have any redeeming features. At all. I mean, none. Based on the sequel to one of the most iconic sci-fi movies of all time, Terminator 2 was developed by a company called Dementia and published by Ocean Software, an LJN, in 1991, the same year as the film. I was a big fan of Ocean around this time, despite the fact that some of their games were rather hit and miss. However, the inclusion of LJN is perplexing at the very least. They certainly like to make themselves known in the intro. We all know the level of quality that they pumped out. I also tried looking up other games that Dementia had created, but obviously googling Dementia video games just returned brain training games aimed at the elderly person. And after 30 minutes so of boring and frankly quite depressing searching, I gave up. Now, the problem with early 90s movie tie-in games is that they are just that, scenes from the associated movie shoehorned into something resembling a game. It's like a whole load of movie executives suddenly said, okay, there's this new up-and-coming medium called a video game. We need a version of our movie as one of these video games. The problem was, the games industry at that time was still in a fairly experimental stage, and as a result, games with a definite theme were desperately trying to stay true to the source material even if they had to sacrifice things like playability. Back in the days of the Commodore 64, movie tie-in games would not rely on graphics, so they simply served as distant reminders of the movie they represented. When more powerful systems became available, graphics took over, because the brand and the way it was perceived became much more important. It was around this time that I realised that movie tie-in games were really not worth my time for the most part. I remember seeing Terminator 2 playing as a demo in my local computer games outlet and thinking that it looked stunning. There were these amazing pictures and animated snippets from the movie throughout, and the rest of the game looked graphic-tastic. Then I played it, and came to the realisation that the problem was it just looked good. The rest of the game was quite the letdown. Let's start off with the obvious. The main character looked nothing like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not even close. Looks, clothing, fighting style, gun, nothing. In fact, neither of the characters do. Normally, I would assume that this is because they do not have the license to use the actor's likeness. But then the energy bars at the bottom of the screen do have a significant resemblance, so there's no reason for this. It feels like they started developing a completely different game that was converted to the Terminator franchise at the last minute, with a few very minor graphical tweaks and some, for the time, glitzy movie imagery between levels. Secondly, there are 3 levels throughout the game that are supposed to be akin to a one-on-one fighting game. Apart from the fact the whole game is only one player, which, when it comes to one-on-one fighting games, makes this as pointless as a man with no fingers saying there it is, there is only about 12 moves. These are generally done by holding one of 3 directions and hitting the fire button repeatedly. Combine that with the ability to fire a limited ammo gun that is not like anything else Arnie uses in the movie, and that is the limit of the strategy in these levels. The other annoying thing is that the T-1000 gains a bizarre headbutt move from the second fighting level onwards, which is a right royal pain. The fighting stages are set in relevant locations within the film, but they are incredibly sparse when it comes to level design and ridiculously claustrophobic due to the fact that they don't scroll left or right. So you are confined to what you can see. So, shoot all of your ammo and then move in, hold a direction and bash the button. That's it. That is the entire strategy for the fighting levels. Honestly, they make body blows look more like Mortal Kombat 11, a game where the T-101 coincidentally makes an appearance and is infinitely more playable. Moving on to the first vehicle level, while this is slightly more movie accurate, it is long-winded and uninspiring. All you need to do is make sure that you don't hit anything until the end of the level. Again, that's it. If you do hit anything, then you get these weird comic book style onomatopoeias flash up, which are not in keeping with the style of the movie, or even the rest of the game for that matter. Oh, and there are these strange spinning things that give you points. Wow. I'll try to contain my excitement. Half the time, you can't even collect these in quick succession. Just when you think that you've finally managed to get through the level, they stick a bridge at the end with an insta-kill if you have not positioned yourself correctly. Unbelievable. What a rookie trap. There are also 2 bonus levels, which involve solving a Klotsky-style sliding piece puzzle. These are, in my opinion, the most engaging part of the game, but that's not saying much. These puzzles are... Wait a minute! These are not even from the right movie! The Terminator fixes his hand and his eye in the first movie! Given the amount of scenes that happen in the film, are they really so hard up for inspiration that they need to start using aspects from the previous film? Anyway, the puzzles are interesting and the graphics are good, but the only thing is that they give you a very stingy time limit to complete them. In some ways this makes them more challenging, but there comes a point when you realise that you're not going to complete them in time and just give up. As you continue to the following levels regardless, there's no drive to complete these bonus levels anyway. After the second bonus level, you have the thrill of the shooting level. This is by far the easiest section in the game. You walk, you shoot. That is literally it. Shooting is the only way to stop yourself walking, so you will get sick of hearing the gun firing sound extremely quickly. But, despite being so easy, you cannot duck like you can in the fighting levels, so if a cop is standing directly in front of you, you have no choice but to take damage. Stupid. Now, let's pause once again to note how movie inaccurate this level is. For starters, the Arnie character is not even using the iconic shotgun. Or, for the part of the movie they are referencing, the obvious choice was the minigun. The minigun! Everyone remembers that part for obvious reasons. No, he's using the grenade launcher. But he's using it as a machine gun. Someone didn't do their research. Also, he's walking along the street. He doesn't do this in the film. He stands shooting from the Cyberdyne building. And also, not to miss the biggest point of this part in the film, Arnie has promised John Connor that he won't kill anybody.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
Yet throughout this entire level he's killing hordes of police officers. Now, I know people are bound to point out that he fires a tear gas grenade at one cop in the film, but once again the energy meter at the bottom would suggest otherwise. The second vehicle level is similar to the first, with the only difference is you need to dodge the shots coming from the helicopter. This section feels like those god-awful driving sections from the 8-bit Ghostbusters games, but somehow it seems even less engaging. Just dodge the traffic and the bullets, and you're done. The final fighting level has one major change. The T-101 now has something akin to the damage he has at the end of the film. But I can't help but notice that compared to his state in the movie, he is much more mobile here. Once again, hold a direction and mash a button, and you will win. Ho hum. The controls throughout the game are stiff and unresponsive. There are times when there is a very noticeable lag between input and execution. A very slight advantage is that the animation in the game is reasonable, and you need to use this to look past the awful controls. But this is also not brilliant, as it is quite often the amount of frames that stifle the input. The game itself is the dictionary definition of linear. It has a level of interactivity which is only just above that of an FMV game. There is no way to deviate from the formula. There are no characters to choose from, no two-player mode, no options, no difficulty settings, no save game, no control remapping. And the levels have no way to digress from the specific route. What this culminates in is a game that has absolutely zero replay value. You don't even want to come back to try to beat your score, because why bother? There are far too many zeros on the score to even come close to what they seem to be expecting you to get. Once you complete the game, there is nothing else to see and nothing else to do. And considering how diluted this game feels, it does not even feel like an achievement to reach the end. Terminator 2 for the Amiga has a strange juxtaposition in that the game is very short but manages to drag at the same time. In total, there are 6 main levels and 2 bonus levels in the entire game. The whole thing can be completed in around 10 minutes. Yet each level seems to just keep going with no real end in sight. The main issue with the game is that every time the next level starts, there is no enthusiasm. As it begins, you generally think, "Oh man, here we go again." There is also no variety in the levels at all, so replay value is nothing. It's crazy to think that this entire game can be started and completed before this video even finishes. It feels like they rushed this game out to coincide with the release of the movie. So much so that I often wonder if the developers even actually watched the movie prior to creating the game. It seems that they were given a very sketchy outline of the film with some key scenes and a few select images and animations. Then someone mentioned that it was the sequel to the Terminator and some of the things that happened in that. They should have taken much more time to make it more interesting and study the source material. Think about all the scenes and action that take place in the film. They could have made it so much more playable and engaging. As I mentioned earlier, the Terminator now appears in Mortal Kombat 11, even though he has nothing to do with the franchise and the T-101 is just making a cameo appearance. It is orders of magnitude better than the official T2 game on the Amiga. When you compare this to the depiction of the Terminator in Mortal Kombat, it is amazing how things have improved. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to hit those like and sub buttons, and as always, see you next game.